Hey guys, it's Aria. So I'm gonna start a new thing. I'm gonna start vlogging. So, I assume you know what a vlog is. So, the first thing I'm gonna do is a Q&A. But the first thing I would like to do is I would like to point out the posters that are behind me because I know someone will ask otherwise. So, this is a poem by Kaelyn Damocles, and it is a poem from a performance that I went to, and I was one of the poets that was sharing my poem because I also had a broadside, which is what this is. And so I took his broadside because I really like it. And then this poster is a quote from the book The Vault of Dreamers, which is in the corner right here. And it's my favorite quote. It says, you probably can't read it because it's dark, "I don't believe in worry. It doesn't change the outcome, but it makes the now miserable, so I don't do it." And the book is by Kara O'Brien, and it's my favorite book. And this is a birthday present. And then this over here is another poem. That one is called From to Begin It, and it's by Jodi Ann Stevenson, who was another poet who performed that night. So, that's that. Let's move on to the questions. Okay, so our first question comes from Anonymous, because apparently this person didn't want to be recognized for asking me my favorite food, my favorite color and why, my favorite flower, and my favorite person. I don't know who you are, but I'm just screwing with you. So my favorite food, well, my automatic response is chocolate, unless people specify. So, chocolate. Favorite color and why? My favorite color is purple, which unusually I actually am not wearing today, for all the colors that I'm wearing. That's weird. I don't usually do that. Why? I don't know. Purple is just such a beautiful color, and there's so many different shades of it, and it's also the color of the year, if you didn't know, because it's the color of the Women's March movement, among other things. And I don't know, I just really like purple. It represents a lot of the things that I love, so. Favorite flower? Oh, goodness. Lilacs. Lilacs. 1, because they're purple. 2, because they smell amazing. Yeah, that's it. I mean, they're pretty, too. I think there are other flowers that are prettier, but there's none that are such a gorgeous color and that smell as good. So, lilacs. Favorite person? Well, everyone is my favorite human. Yeah, that's human. I don't know where I picked that up. Probably a choir kid, honestly. But everyone is a human. So favorite person, if you're talking favorite celebrity, I'd have to say Emma Gonzalez, because she is just incredible. I mean, she's everything that I want to be. She's kind, she's caring, she's a big-time activist, she follows out her goals with everything she has in her. It's just, it blows me away. I don't know. And then she's bi, too, which is great. She's also pretty darn cute. But I don't really have a favorite person, I guess. I mean, I have my best friends, but I don't really have a favorite person, per se. Everyone is my favorite. This next question comes from Ethan Pond. Actually, the following couple of questions come from Ethan Pond. He was in the video that I did yesterday. So if you didn't see that, by the way, check that out, because it's really fun. It was a fun collab. I don't really get to do collabs a lot, except for, like, accompanist, which I love my accompanist, but it's not the same. So this first question comes from Ethan, and he says, what is your opinion of the activism that is occurring in America? Where do you think we're headed in our future as a country? The activism that is occurring in America, I mean, as you can probably guess from the last clip, I think it's incredible. I mean, for so long we've lived in a country with racism, with poverty, with, school shootings, and to some extent there's always been people that have been fighting against those things, obviously. I mean, we have thinking about Black Lives Matter, thinking about, I don't know any other organizations on the top of my head. I should have just said Black Lives Matter. But thinking those organizations that have always been there. But this is now not just people that are directly affected, it's people who are choosing to step up even though they don't have to, even though it doesn't really affect them, you know? And I think that that's absolutely incredible. And I think that our generation, my generation, Generation Z, the change generation, whatever it is we end up being called, who even knows? I mean, I prefer Generation Change, obviously, but I think that things are going to change. I think that unless this country falls apart under Trump, which it sort of is getting there, so we'll see. But I think that things are really going to change. I think that politicians are going to have to start listening to their constituents again. I mean, especially coming November when the vote is going to happen. I can't vote, which really sucks. I'm not going to be 18 for another 5 months or something. From November. But I think that they're going to realize that they have to start listening. Otherwise, they're not going to have office anymore. And, you know, that's a big deal to them because that's their money. That's how they're living. And I think for a lot of politicians, it's a power thing, too. They like the power. So, where do you think we're headed in our future as a country? Well, I sort of talked about that. I think that we're headed in a really good direction. I think that we're going to start going back to the idea that our politicians have to be representing us, or else they're not going to stay in office. So, next question he asked is, what is, in your opinion... So the next question he asked is, what is, in your opinion, the most important character trait that most defines oneself? I always say open-mindedness, and here's why. Open-mindedness is a collaboration of things. To be open-minded, you have to be kind. You have to be willing to listen, obviously. You have to be willing to really hear people. You have to be willing to talk to people. It's this whole group of positive traits in order to be you have to have in order to be open-minded. And so I think open-mindedness is really the big one. So this next question comes again from Ethan, and he says, how, in your opinion, do we as a nation rebound from the fake news generation? So much untruth has been spread. How do you personally take action against the lies being told? So, this is my opinion. So, fake news is a personal responsibility. Like, it's wonderful that Facebook is trying to combat that. That's a great thing. I think that that's so important. But we have to take personal responsibility. Before you share something, look at what you're sharing. It's that simple. Is it CNN? Is it New York Times? Is it places? Is it an opinion? What is it, first of all? Where does it come from? What is it? Is it irony? Is it, is it just total BS? Is it total political spiel? What is it that you're sharing? And so I think that's the first thing. And the thing is, if you don't know, it's a 5-second search to find out if a website is biased, if a website is irony, find out what a website is. And so I think that you have to take responsibility. And as far as what I do, that's what I do. I take responsibility. Not that much. That would be a lie. 85% of the time, when I share something, I am going to check that it's from a website that I know, from a place that I know to be reputable, and if I find out later that it's not, then I take it down. And that's the other thing. You have to be willing to take it down. And not only that, when you see falsehoods being spread, when you see stuff about, like, the immigration policy and how it's been around since 1997, how the Obama administration put it in place, how kids have been taken from their families for years and years, that's false. Like, it's a 2-second search to find out that Snopes proved that false, which Snopes is a very good source, by the way. Like, if you've never used it, totally factual, completely politically non-biased, very, very true. And so, it's a 2-second search. So if I see that stuff, I find that website, I've used it like 7 or 8 times now, and I send it to that person. And I say, hey, you have to realize that what you're saying is not true. And I think the other thing is, throughout our entire history, we have lived in a world where people try to put religion and morals that they have had for years and years over the law and over science. And I think that it's time that we realize that we can do both. I'm a Christian, and I'm also LGBTQ. I'm a Christian, I'm also liberal. I'm a Christian, and I'm also pro-choice, even though I'm anti-abortion. We are walking contradictions, and I actually saw a post about this. You can be both. You can do both. And I think it's time that we realize that. So I think we just have to take responsibility for that. We have to realize that science is true. New science isn't a thing. Like, I understand that there are studies out there that aren't very reliable. They have, 100, 200 people. It's the first time it's ever been spoken about, and they're cited by some sketchy companies, like there's, like, it's a thing about a new pharmaceutical drug, and the pharmaceutical company sponsored it. Like, yeah, a little sketchy. And only 100 people, tested this new drug. And it's gonna cure everything, So I think there are times where we have to be skeptical, but there's also times where thinking about, like, transgender people over and over and over, at least 20 reliable studies, probably more that are smaller scale, have said that transgender people are valid, and they are. They're valid, that it's brain chemistry, it's not something that they're making up. And I think it's time that we realize that. It's time that we pay attention to those things, and we realize that we can stick to our morals of our religion and still believe in science and things like that. It's time to change that. It's time to do both. Next question from Ethan says, since you and I both struggle with certain things in our lives, how is it that you personally deal with those things? So what he's talking about is, he's talking about mental illness. And I have anxiety and depression, if you didn't know that. And I deal with that stuff. I mean, it's a work in progress, for sure. I started seeing a therapist about 1.5 years ago now. And, actually, no, it's just been 1 year since I started seeing a therapist. But I started seeing a therapist, and I've had to start coping with coping mechanisms. And I think, to some extent, Ethan's also talking about, like, all the negativity that we're seeing right now, We're seeing kids being taken away from their families. We're seeing school shootings every other day, it seems like. We're seeing people dying from gun violence every day. I mean, I have an automatic tweet that goes out every day where it says the number of people that died to gun violence, and it's always in the teens at the very least, if not in the 20s. And that's stuff that we have to recognize. And as far as how I deal with it, I have to know when to step away. I'm not always good at this, because I will tend to push things, and I'll tend to not pay attention to how I'm feeling, but I have to know how much of it to take on personally, how much of it to read before I need to step away. And I think that's something that we all have to do, because this negativity all the time, it's not good, We need something positive. And so I have one rule in life. One rule. Just one. I mean, I have things that I do, but I have one thing that I would call a rule that I live by. And that's, no matter what, find humor in things. No matter what, don't lose your sense of humor, And so I think that's important. That's what we have to do, is no matter how hard things are getting, we have to find the positivity. We have to learn to still laugh. Because without that stuff, what are we going to do? I mean, how are we living, The last two questions I have from Ethan are, what piece of work, writing or otherwise, do you feel is your most influential? And why do you personally find writing to be an outlet for you? So, as far as piece of work I find to be most influential, I wrote a poem called To Love Is To Resist. It's actually, the original version of it is recorded on the YouTube channel a lot earlier, so you can check that out. I probably will re-record it at some time over this summer, but it's kind of a two-person job when I do spoken word stuff, because someone has to sit and scroll through the poem, and then I have to be able to, perform it, and also pay attention to all the video stuff. Videoing is a lot of work. If you've never, taken a video for a YouTube channel, just try it or watch someone do it and realize how much work is put into setting up and all of it. Anyways, continuing on. So I wrote this poem called To Love Is To Resist, and it's kind of just, it's from the point of view of all these people who they're dealing with things, these fictional people that are dealing with things that are actually happening right now. And so things like a little girl whose mom is shot by a police officer, and things like, what else is in that poem? I don't know, but the point is, it's been a while since I've read it, but it's still like one of my favorites. So it's the point of the poem is, no matter what, we have to love these people. These people need love. We have to recognize that. Everyone needs love. But especially, we have to stick up for these people. We have to keep fighting for them, because they can't themselves all the time. And, you know, there's exceptions to that, looking at the Parkland students, looking at the MST students, you know. They took their grief and they took it and turned it into power, and I think that's incredible. I mean, I don't know if I would be able to do that necessarily, and so I admire them beyond belief. But then there's people that can't do that, and so we have to stick up for them. We have to stick up for the minorities, and I think it's time that we understand that. And so that's what that poem is about. It's talking about loving these people is fighting for them, is resisting for them. So yeah, there's that. Why do you personally find writing to be an outlet for you? I think I tend to find that writing can express better than what I can say the first try. So like, if I write something out, it's more likely to be clear what I'm getting across the first time people read it than it would be if I had just had to improvise on the spot. And I think that's gotten better over time, but I think it's still kind of hard for me. And so that's why I started doing it. Right now I do it as kind of like a therapeutic thing. It helps me sort through things too. Like, especially if I'm like having a bad week, if I write a poem, if I just kind of describe what I'm feeling, even if it's not directly describing what I'm feeling, even if it's like writing metaphors, you know, thinking about that, it helps. It communicates with people. Writing is the kind of thing that touches people. Writing and music are so powerful to other people. And I think that, I don't know, it just really connects with me. And so, yeah. Okay, so the last question is a fun one from Rebecca, who I met through, if it is who I think it is. I know a couple of Rebeccas, but I'm pretty sure I know who it is. She is the girl that I met through a Twitter group chat called the Order of the Activists. Rebecca, if that's not you, I'm so sorry. But she said, OMG, who was your favorite guy from Queer Eye Reboot? And don't even say you didn't watch it, because I'll literally disown you. Okay, I definitely did watch it. I'm gonna admit it wasn't until like 2 days ago that I started watching it. Not gonna lie, but I have been watching it, and I've been binge watching it. I watched the entire first season in one day, and now I'm like halfway through the second season. So, you know, I am getting through it. I did start watching it late. But my favorite character, oh my goodness, I'm totally blanking on his name. What's his name? He's the culture guy. He's the African-American, really tall one. Hold on, I'll look it up. This is me looking it up on camera. Woo! Queer Eye Leads. Loading. What are their names? It's loading. It's so slow. Caramo Brown. That's his name. I like him. I think that he has so much insight into the world, and I think that that's just so special. He really connects with people, and he's connected with me too, with a lot of the things that he said. And then the other person, if I had to pick a second place, it would probably be Antoni. He's so optimistic, but he's so sensitive too. And I love that about him, you know? So, they're my two favorite Queer Eye people, for Miss Rebecca, whoever you are, if you are who I think you are. I really am hoping. This is me crossing my fingers. If you liked this vlog, please like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know some suggestions for things you want to see me do in the future. I want to do this more. I like talking on camera. I started doing it through Clover Letter, which is an amazing newsletter that I follow. If you would like to subscribe to them, they're an email newsletter. You can get it once a day or just a couple times a week. It's completely up to you, but they're wonderful, and I've been subscribed to them for years, and I'm an ambassador for them. And they recently teamed up with Awesomeness TV, and they reached out to the ambassadors to do videos for them. And so I did a video, and I was like, hey, this is really fun. So now I'm going to start vlogging on my own, too. So if you have suggestions for what I should do, please leave them down in the comments below. And as far as what I'm going to do next, I'm headed somewhere this weekend, and I think I'm going to do some videotaping and take a lot of photos. And you guys are going to like it, whether you think you will or not. So